Well, hello, Grant. Hello, everybody in South Africa. This is Langdon Morris here, and I'm going to share with you some thoughts about innovation, which, of course, is my favorite topic and a topic I think of great interest to all of you. So, Grant, thank you so much for inviting me to spend some time with you today. I'm really happy to share some thoughts and ideas about how the companies in the Bay region can become more innovative, more competitive, and, of course, more successful. So the title of my presentation is Your Choice, Innovate and Thrive or Stagnate and Die. Now, are we overstating it there? Is that a little bit too dramatic? Well, maybe so, but if you look at the way business is going around the world, in Africa, in Europe, in North and South America, in Asia, everywhere. In fact, if you're not innovating, then you are risking stagnation. And if you're stagnating, then you risk that sooner or later your organization will die. So we think of innovation as an imperative. Then the question becomes, well, how do you do it? How do you do it well? How do you do it effectively? And how do you make it work for your organization, in your industry, in your geography? I'm going to start off with a couple of case studies. The first one's about fridge pack. There's probably a fridge pack in your own refrigerator. You may not know it, but here's the story of how it got created. It starts with an aluminum company. This is Alcoa, Aluminum Company of America. And here you can see in the aluminum mill, the rolls and rolls and rolls, tons and tons of raw aluminum. What did Alcoa want to do? Well, they wanted to do what any company wants to do. They wanted to sell more product. So they did a lot of research about where aluminum was being used in the marketplace globally. They looked at a lot of options. So automobile frames, aircraft, building structures, cables for telecommunications and electricity. And then they thought, well, wait a minute, what about aluminum cans? And they realized that they had the potential to influence the beverage market perhaps more than the other markets. And so they started to do research in how they could sell more aluminum cans. So that's the target. Let's sell more of that stuff. Let's get people to drink more beverages. But how do we do that? Well, the approach that they took was to study packaging by doing what we call ethnographic research, studying how people choose to consume products, what are the features and qualities that enable them to consume more, and what are the barriers that prevent them from consuming more. And in studying consumer behavior, they learned something pretty interesting pretty quickly on, which is that the packaging on the left side was considered very difficult to use, and people really didn't like pulling the can out of that six-pack ring structure. And on the other hand, when they asked people, well, what's an easy packaging for you to use, they referenced an egg carton. And so the question that they asked themselves is, well, if egg cartons are really easy, how can we make our packaging more like an egg carton? Simple question. And pretty quickly, they came up with a prototype. Here you can see, it wasn't very complicated. Put some tape around a bundle of cans, stick it in the fridge, and that looks kind of like an egg carton, yeah. So then they took it a little bit further and made a more advanced prototype. And it was a cardboard box that held, in this case, 12 cans. And once you tore open the box, the cans would essentially distribute themselves. So there was no fighting with the ring tops anymore. They just came right out. So here's the result. They invented this thing. They called it the fridge pack. Again, you probably have some in your refrigerator. I wouldn't be surprised. And so again, remember, this is Alcoa. So this is the company that's selling the aluminum to the beverage companies, to the beverage manufacturers. And they took this idea to the manufacturers and said, hey, we came up with this really cool new way for you to distribute your product. Wouldn't you like to try it? Because we think it might help you sell more of your beverages, which is, of course, what they wanted to do. And the answer was, well, no thanks. We like the way we're doing it now. And so this was their response from the Coca-Cola company in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. And so then they went to some of the Coca-Cola subsidiary bottlers and they said, hey, what about this? Would you guys like to try it? And they said, no, we're doing just fine. Thank you very much. Nice idea, but we're good. Have you heard a story like this before? Or maybe you've had an experience like this yourself. It's really, really common. Someone comes up with an idea, might be a great idea, might be a terrible idea. We don't know yet until we try it, but people don't want to try it. It's like, no, we're fine. We have everything we need. No need for us to innovate. Everything's working fine. Customers are very happy. Well, when we encounter that mindset, what we've encountered is the old way of doing things. And what's innovation about? It's about finding the new way of doing things. So sometimes you have to be persistent with your idea, with your commitment to trying it out, seeing if it's actually going to work. And then you might discover that it really will work and it really will make a difference. So there's a mindset there that we have to work to overcome. We might call it the bureaucratic mindset, the mindset of the status quo, the mindset of, yeah, we're very satisfied with the way things are. But your competitors are not satisfied. Your competitors are always looking for ways to improve, to create an advantage over your organization. And that means that they're trying to innovate, which means that you have to keep trying to innovate as well. And in this case, the Alcoa team was persistent. They didn't just stop when Coca-Cola said no and no. They kept looking for an organization, someone who'd give it a try. And so they went around the world and talked to various bottling companies. Bottling companies are independent. They're under contract with Coca-Cola, but they're not owned by Coca-Cola, many of them. And in Australia, they found that a bottler was interested in trying the idea. That's you guys down in the Southern Hemisphere. Very innovative, very open to new things. So what was happening with Coca-Cola in Australia? Well, sales were increasing gradually on a nice incline. And then they introduced the fridge pack concept in a few markets, and boom, sales spurted up. Consumers really liked it. It made it much easier to use the product. So that was cool. So they saw this in the US at headquarters, and they said, yeah, well, this is temporary, blah, blah, blah. It'll go back down to what the trend line was before. So that was what the expected result was. The actual result was consumption stayed higher. Wow. It was a breakthrough. It completely changed the way consumers in Australia were consuming Coca-Cola. So a bunch of people got on an airplane, flew down there, and discovered that, yes, in fact, this fridge pack thing really does work. The benefit for Alcoa ended up being about $1 billion annually once the fridge pack concept was spread throughout the beverage industry. Obviously, Coca-Cola adopted it first, but all the other beverage companies adopted it really quickly as well. So the end result for Alcoa was a fabulous success, but also for their customers, the beverage companies, and for consumers, because consumers had an easier way to consume the product. So when you go into a grocery store today, pretty much anywhere in the world, you'll see these stacks and stacks of boxes. It's actually easier for the store to stack as well, and they can turn it into artwork for various promotional displays, seasonal events and sales. People come in, they just grab those boxes right off. Now, what's interesting about this, well, there's a lot of things that are interesting about it, but one of the things that's really interesting about it is that in order to sell more aluminum, we had to get the cardboard box manufacturer involved. So in fact, this shows that innovation is very often a partnership between the box company, the aluminum company, and the beverage company. Innovation happens that way in the community, in the ecosystem of this industry. And it turns out that the notion of the fridge pack and the fact of making a product easy to consume became a meme. So you can see here we have some other fridge packs. So other industries stole the idea. This is plastic packaging, borrowed the idea from Alcoa and said, hey, if the fridge pack works for beverages, it'll work for fruit. It'll work for beans. It'll work for Bailey's Irish cream. So it's a meme. So in effect, what happened with the fridge pack is it changed how consumers thought about products. And the fridge pack name became a name that they started to look for. So here we have another example. This is Heinz ketchup, and you can see on the left, what does it say there on the label? It says it fits in the fridge door. So now we, as a product manufacturer or a packaging manufacturer, are interested in what makes life easier for the consumer. Interesting. So all this started with the fridge pack and the innovation of the fridge pack. Now, I want to move on and share another case study with you, also about consumer behavior, also about discovering something new about consumers that changes how a company approaches the marketplace. So this is a case study from Haier, the Chinese appliance manufacturer. And what did they want to do? They wanted to manufacture and sell water heaters for residences in China. As you very well know, China's been in a building boom for a few decades. Hundreds of millions of people have been moving to the cities and buying apartments. And what do they have to do? Well, they have to furnish the apartments, and that means they need a water heater. And Haier would like to sell them the water heater. So the question is designing, manufacturing, and distributing a water heater a technical problem, or is it a human problem? Well, it's a very classical way for a company to frame the approach that they're going to take to designing a product. Haier, in this case, did something very similar to what Alcoa did. They went and did primary consumer research. They did ethnographic research to study what was important to consumers. And so we asked the question, when you buy a hot water heater for your home, for your new home, what do you care about? And on this slide, you see the logo of Meerkat Works. This is our partner in Shanghai. They are the organization that did the research on behalf of Haier. Meerkat's a great company, and if you want to do business in China, a very good partner to consider working with. So what did Meerkat do? Well, they went out and they interviewed families. They went into their homes and talked to families and parents and kids. You know, what do you care about? Well, we care about cooking with clean water. We want to make sure that the water that we're using when we cook the food for our family is pure. We want to make sure that when we're bathing our children, the water is also clean and pure, because we know that the baby drinks bath water, not intentionally. It just gets in their mouth and they swallow it. So we want to make sure that that's good quality water. And when we look at our shower head, we go, oh my gosh, look at all that mineral scaling on there. That looks terrible. Is that what's going into my mouth when I'm drinking water? I don't want that. So they discover something about water, which is very important. People are concerned about safety. Is it comfortable on my skin? Is it healthy when I drink it, when I cook with it, etc.? So what are we seeing here? We're seeing a focus on how it feels and on qualities like safety. Haier was initially thinking, it's a hot water heater. It's a technical problem. So here we have an advertisement for the product. And as you can see, it does not feature the product. You don't actually see the water heater. And it doesn't talk about how it heats the water. All it talks about is that it's pure and safe. And why would they advertise that way? Well, because that's what the consumer cares about. So here is the product, and it's about fresh water. The Haier engineers came up with a threefold purification approach and anti-scaling, so that you didn't see the mineral scaling on the shower head, the way you saw in that ugly photograph. And that became the core of the product. And lo and behold, they use a technical research innovation technique called TREES. That's a Russian acronym for the theory of systematic problem solving. I know it looks like TRIZ, but it's pronounced TREES. And it's a technique used by innovators all over the world to find excellent technical solutions to engineering problems. So between the ethnographic research discovering what the consumers wanted and the use of TREES as a way to simplify the engineering process, Haier came up with a winning product. And they discovered that, yes, it's a human problem first and a technical problem second. And this is true for nearly everything related to innovation. If we understand the human aspect of whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether it's a new product or a new service or a new business model, then we can engineer the technical part of it to meet the customer need that we have discovered by doing the human research. So another model that we use in our innovation work is what we call the value ladder. And so we think of basic value as a commodity product and transformed value as a differentiated product or service. So if you buy a commodity product, then you're a customer. But when you buy a differentiated product of transformed value, then you become a loyal partner. Now, both places in the marketplace are valid. You can have a very, very successful organization producing and selling commodity products, you can also have a very, very successful organization at the higher end of the value ladder. Very rarely do you want to be stuck in the middle of the value ladder, however. So companies like Haier, what do? Well, they make commodity products for the commodity customer, and they make differentiated products for the customer who wants the transform value proposition. In both cases, again, they can be successful, but they have to make a conscious choice. Which way do we want to go? So the end point of this is to think about the difference between use, usability, and meaning. So what are we going to use the water for? The hot water, it's for cooking, cleaning, and bathing primarily. Is it hot? Does it get hot quickly? That's usability. But what is the meaning for the customer? The meaning for the customer that motivated them to buy the product is purity. That's what they care about. So that became a completely transformative shift in how Haier brought this product to market. And the result was a great high-end brand, average selling price quite high, 10,000 units in the first 3 months, so tremendously successful. It established Haier as the brand for purifying water heaters, so it effectively blocked out their competitors for a time, enabled them to develop follow-up products, and effectively it enabled a new business model. And of course, the bottom one, the most important, notice that the value proposition has essentially nothing to do with heating water. It has everything to do with the purity of the water which is heated. So let's take a look at some insights as well from the fridge pack case study. Yes, it's a research project. We want to know what makes it easy, what makes it hard. Will you try it? What's the impact? Do we need partners? Well, so end user knowledge is mandatory in these types of projects. You cannot assume that the way you're distributing your product is the best way until you actually ask them. Can you make it easier? Well, yeah, you can, as it turns out, but you have to test it. Are you willing to try? What do? We created actually a new meme, a new customer category of packaging. And yeah, we needed a partner to execute the strategy. So I hope you found those case studies interesting. I find them fascinating. They say a lot about innovation in a couple of different industries. The same thing applies in nearly every industry. So you'll find this kind of research going on in the automobile industry, in all forms of industrial B2B manufacturing, in nearly every type of service business throughout retail, food, consumer goods. The things that you can learn when you set about to innovate and you do it systematically, well, they can be transformative and they can indeed help you thrive in these very interesting changing times. So let's ask the question, why does innovation matter? Let's step back a little bit and think about that. Innovation, well, what is it? It's new ideas that we implement. It's new products that we create. It's new solutions, new services, of course, but also new business models. It brings us into new markets with new thinking, enables us to execute new strategies. Most importantly, it's about the value. It's about providing value to customers. So innovation is that process, that systematic process of looking for and achieving strategic competitive advantage for the short term, the medium term, and yes, for the long term. Furthermore, innovation is actually the basis of competition. So it doesn't matter if we're selling candy bars or cell phones or appliances like Haier, or automobiles, or if we're selling the airplanes or we're the airline that's flying the planes. Innovation is critical in all of these sectors, in all of these industries. It doesn't matter if we're in the energy business, and it doesn't matter where in the world we are. Innovation is the basis of competition pretty much everywhere. So from one end of the market to the other, from the smallest, least expensive product to our national strategy. Innovation is what we're doing. But how does it work? How do we do it? Well, on the one hand, innovation is science. It requires structure, process, method. We have to have expertise. But on the other hand, there's a bit of art to it because it's open-ended. We use a lot of intuition. We are driven by our curiosity. It's a process of discovery. But yes, it also requires expertise. It's expertise that we can learn. So we merge the art and science together into a systematic approach. That doesn't tell us how to innovate, In the two case studies we've looked at, we've talked about the importance of ethnography, the importance of going and finding out what's working and not working for people, finding out the meaning behind the product or the services that they're interested in. Now, innovation has lots of tools and techniques and methods, which as you learn them and begin to get proficient at them, they can really, really accelerate your capacity. They can augment, they can improve your capacity to achieve excellent results quickly. So what are some of those tools? I'll give you some examples. So one of the most important techniques in innovation, it's called design thinking. It's the process of thinking through the problems that the customer is experiencing, what makes things difficult, and then finding solutions, what makes it easy. It's the process of understanding what has meaning for customers, and therefore, what do they want to buy, and how do we want to present it to them? We also call this ethnographic research. So that's the research that led to the discovery of the fridge pack, the research that led to the discovery that what customers want in China is pure, clean water. So we use this little guy as an icon to represent on the outside the stuff we already know. And it's not that interesting, and it's usually explicit. We can observe it. But on the left side, the stuff that no one knows. This is the stuff that we're looking for. This is the knowledge that we're looking for. This is the knowledge that enables us to make a new product, to create a new meme for the marketplace of packaging, like the fridge pack, or a breakthrough product, like the higher hot water heater. So we say that this knowledge is tacit or it's hidden. We have to go and find it by interacting with customers and being very clever about how we ask them questions and then listening very carefully to what they tell us. And from that, we may discover something as powerful as the fridge pack, and we may be able to sell $1 billion more of aluminum. You never know. I mentioned also trees in the higher case study. Trees, a systematic engineering approach. And then we have the possibility of doing innovation in our business model. So here are brands that you're probably familiar with. And yes, they are all business model innovators. What do? They took an old assumption in the industry, flipped that assumption upside down, and became tremendously successful as a consequence. So I'll take just one example in the middle of my list, McDonald's. What do? They transformed fast food into a very systematic product, which was then copied all over the world. So it essentially changed how the fast food industry operates. What did Starbucks do? Starbucks discovered that you could sell the product for 10 times more if you customized it and made it of high quality. So the 50-cent cup of coffee became the $5 cup of coffee. What FedEx discovered is that if you combine an airline, a trucking company, and an IT company, you could take the service of delivering letters and packages, and you could charge 10 times more, or even more than 10 times more than the post office was charging, if you could do it reliably. If you could guarantee that the package would be there the next day. And yes, people will pay 10 or 20 times more for certain letters and certain packages to be delivered the next day with a guarantee and with confidence. So they instill confidence in their customer. So all of these organizations are business model innovators, and business model innovation is one of the most fruitful areas for you to think about innovation. Often you can transform your business model at very low cost. So how do we scale our innovations? Well, so we use a model like this, an adoption curve model, to help us understand how customers choose to adopt innovations. So this is, again, a tool, part of a framework, part of our way of thinking about innovation and thinking about how innovation comes into the market and how customers choose to adopt it. In many markets, there are those who are innovators and early adopters, those who are interested in new stuff and want to try it. So in the fridge pack case study, Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, no, those were not early adopters, but the early adopters were the bottlers in Australia that said, yeah, sure, we'll give that a try. Once you get past the early adoption stage, then how do you scale? Well, we divide the mainstream market into early majority and late majority, and then there are the laggards who come along later. And the point of this, of course, is that if we understand the psychology of adoption, then we can design our marketing and delivery of the product or service to the marketplace in order to climb up into the mainstream market as quickly as possible. How, in other words, do we scale our innovations? critical knowledge for all innovators and all innovation teams. And then there's a problem that we all experience as customers, the problem that we refer to as friction. So we use Uber and the taxi industry as a way to illustrate this. So what's the taxi experience and what's the Uber experience? If it's a rainy day and you're hailing a cab, you go out on the street and you say, hey, taxi, and what do? Well, they all drive by because they're full and they splash you with water. So it's a very unpleasant experience. Uber, on the other hand, it comes when I call. Wow, so I don't have to stand outside in the rain getting soaking wet. That's awesome. A taxi, it's random luck. Uber is scheduled. I don't know how much a taxi is going to cost, but with Uber, I know up front. I even know the route up front with Uber. Maybe we'll deviate if there's a traffic problem, but at least I can see what the plan is. How am I going to pay? Well, I've got to pay with cash. Oh, no, with Uber, I don't have to pay with cash. Money's taken care of separately. Should I tip in the taxi? No cash involved in the Uber. Is the driver good? Well, I don't know. I've been in some cabs where I didn't think I was very safe. Uber, well, drivers have ratings and they get feedback. And if they drive badly too much, they're not Uber drivers anymore. So potentially a much safer experience. On the other hand, the driver doesn't know who the passenger is in the taxi. But in Uber, well, the drivers know. Passengers also get ratings. So the feedback goes in both directions. Better for the driver, better for the passenger. Taxis, old, dirty, and smelly. Uber cars, typically newer, cleaner, better taken care of. So we say that on the left, that's a high friction experience. And on the right, that's a low friction experience. What do consumers want? They want no friction. So how can we design our business model to be friction free? Well, we have to do research and identify where the friction is. The taxi experience lasted nearly a century. And everybody said, well, this is just how it is. Until a couple of guys said, well, wait a minute. We could change that experience. We could use technology to transform the experience. Aha, technology. How are we going to use technology to transform the experience in your organization? How is technology? How are apps? How are smartphones? How is AI? How are all these new technologies going to change the experience that we can provide to our customers, the way we relate to our customers, the way we sell to our customers, the way we get feedback from our customers? Technology is a critical component, obviously, of everything going forward, and we can use it to reduce or even eliminate friction. And that enables us to create what? A better business model, of course, because business model is all about the experience that we provide to our customers. So friction makes things harder, riskier, more complicated, etc. Friction-free, easier, safer, simpler, and more value. And what do we want to do when we're innovating? Well, it's all about providing customer value. So using the lens of friction just gives us a new way to think about how can we be more effective in the marketplace. So this is what happens. The Uber experience is what happens when you rethink the whole process and when you design from the customer's point of view and when you understand how technology can be used to change the customer's experience. So again, these are just examples of how innovation can lead to tremendous discoveries and therefore tremendous successes. Now, it's all well and good and important to have tools and techniques to know what you're doing, to have the right ways of going about solving these very, very interesting problems. But we need something else in addition. We need a big picture framework. We need to understand from the entire organizational perspective, how are we pursuing our innovation goals? How are we going to even define what those goals should be? What's our innovation strategy? What's our innovation process? And for that, we need a lot of rigor. We need as much rigor as any other business process. Innovation in this context is another business process. So whether it's marketing or accounting or manufacturing or sales or distribution, there's a discipline behind it. And the discipline behind it in the way that we practice it requires a master plan. So you're doing design thinking, you're coming up with new ideas, you're thinking about friction and technology, you're thinking about scale and adoption. So you're applying all these tools, but you don't want to just do it randomly. So in our work over the last 15, 20 years, we've created a framework called the Innovation Master Plan. And here you can see it in a chart form. Here's a group of people in a company thinking about how they're going to organize their innovation investments to optimize return, minimize risk, and yes, improve the customer's experience. That's what it's all about. Here we have another organization. They worked it out on a whiteboard. These are all the things we need to do to organize this process. So we've created an entire framework to help you think through all the issues that you have to do. So in a matter of a few days or a couple of weeks, you can come up with a master plan that will help you identify what's your strategy, what's your innovation portfolio, what's your innovation process, how do you engage people, and what are the tools that you need. Those are the 5 major elements of the master plan framework. And we lay it out in a very simple way. So you go step by step, raising questions, answering questions, and coming up with a solid approach that you can then apply to create value for your customers. This is what it looks like in Chinese. Yes, we've taught this in China. So what goes into your innovation master plan? Well, we ask a bunch of questions like, why are we doing this? That's a strategic question. What are we doing? Well, we're creating innovation portfolios. How are we doing it? That's our innovation process, whether it's design thinking or trees or adoption models or all those things. We have to have a very systematic way to approach it, knowing, of course, back to what I said earlier, on the one hand, it's science. It's the systematic process of being rigorous. And on the other hand, it's art. It's the process of discovery and curiosity and finding out new things about customers and their needs that enables us to understand what's valuable for them and then understand how we can create and deliver that value. So who? Well, that's the people, because innovation is done by people. So the people possibly need training, some organization, some coaching, some guidance. And of course, this is one of the areas where Propella can really step in and offer a lot of support to the innovation efforts that you're undertaking. And what about the tools? So, what kind of environments are we using? What IT are we using? And then there's the 6th question that we learned in grade school. Remember, why, what, how, who, where, and then when. So what's the answer to the question about when innovate? Well, that one doesn't take a lot of thought because we know the answer. The answer is it has to be now. Innovation has to happen right now. The sooner we innovate, the sooner we create value, the sooner we move forward as an organization. So that's our innovation system in brief. And now let's step back just for a moment and look at a definition of innovation. What are we doing when we are aspiring to innovate? We're aspiring to create new values for consumers, customers, and companies. And how do we do that? By devising and applying new technology, new organizational models, new approaches, new marketing, new venture designs, new business models. And the goal is organic business growth. In traditional business process, the logic of a business operations and the logic of innovation are in conflict. Because what are we trying to do in every aspect of the business? We're trying to eliminate variety. We're trying to eliminate uncertainty. We're trying to systematize and make everything as regular as possible. We're trying to eliminate ambiguity. And what are we doing in innovation? Well, we're looking for ambiguity. We're looking for problems. We're looking for uncertainties. We're looking for areas where things are unclear. We're trying to understand. So it's a very open-ended, intuitive process, as I've described. And what are we transforming our organization into by going through this innovation master plan process? We're bringing the logic of operations and the logic of innovation together so that they're complementary and so the organization can grow and benefit from this new knowledge, this new capability. Because in a sense, we're bringing a systematic approach to the open-endedness of innovation. And so we're reconciling the conflict. We're making it easy for organizations to innovate because they understand at all levels the role of innovation and the role of systematized operations. They fit together perfectly for long-term sustainability. Because if we don't do this, well, over the long term, we're probably not going to be around, again, where we started, right? Innovate and grow or stagnate and die. And we see that all over the world in every industry. The innovators are the companies that leap ahead, that discover the future, that create the future and create their sustainable growth path. The companies that don't innovate, well, sooner or later they stagnate and many of them or most of them die off. So let me go back to where we started. What is innovation? Well, it's new ideas that we implement. It's new products and new solutions. It's definitely new services and, very importantly, new business models, which enables us to get into new markets with new thinking, new strategies. And as I said, the key is providing value to customers, and for the organization, what does it do? It creates sustainable competitive advantage. Yes, it's about new markets. It's about sustainable and strategic competitive advantage. It's about creating the future for your organization. So if we're going to talk about innovation and strategy, there's one other theme that we need to touch on. Do you know what it is? What's been missing from our conversation? Well, that's the impact of AI, the impact of these emerging technologies on the marketplace and on the workplace. AI is just coming into the market now in a big way. It's getting a lot of attention. We're not quite sure how it's going to create value, but it's something we really have to be attuned to. We have to be prepared for. Now, here in the US, we have a partner firm called Future Lab, and it's an incubator for new technologies. It doesn't work like Propella. It's not drawing in entrepreneurs from outside. It's a team of people who have a lot of their own ideas, and we use Future Lab as a laboratory to develop them to see if we can turn them into ventures. Future Lab has been working in the AI space for the last couple of years. For example, we created an add-on for Slack, which is an AI-enabled brainstorming tool that we use in innovation work. And what we understand about AI is that it has tremendous potential to disrupt the marketplace. So if we're going to talk about innovation in the 2020s, we've got to be prepared to talk about AI as well. AI is just two letters, but they do carry an awful lot of meaning now. AI tools and technologies are going to impact just about every industry, just about every sector of the economy. They're starting to do that now because AI systems can do profound levels of pattern recognition, problem solving, and system modeling on much, much larger data sets than humans can understand. So on the right side, we see a list of industries where AI is already being used extensively and will continue to have an impact. And the list here is intended to cover just about the entire scope of the economy. And furthermore, AI systems are starting to generate original insights. So your innovation strategy, your innovation master plan has to think about, has to consider, has to incorporate a perspective on AI and an understanding of how AI is going to be brought into your work, into your organization, into your products, and into how the organization operates. Now, one of the things we've been doing at Future Lab is we've been developing educational programs to help people understand AI and to help them figure out how AI applies in their particular case. And so through Propella, we'll be able to bring that to you in the Bay region as well. And as part of an innovation master plan framework, then AI will become potentially a very powerful part of your innovation practice, and hopefully will indeed, as we've been discussing throughout this presentation, enable you to thrive in the future and to avoid the stagnation and risk that will come to organizations that can't grasp the importance of AI or can't figure out how to apply it in their sector. So are you ready to get on with innovation? Well, I hope so. Propella is ready to support you. So what can we do together? Well, we'll train and coach you. We'll work with you and help you prepare your own innovation master plan. And your team can take our online course and become certified in innovation. So people can learn in great depth and detail about these techniques. Now, in our training programs, we have lots of materials that will help you. It's about 25 hours, accompanied by hundreds of pages of material to help you learn and apply these techniques. And then you too will become an innovation organization, and you'll be in that process creating your own sustainable future as an organization. So have I convinced you? Do you agree with me that it's either innovation and thrive or stagnate and die? Well, if you think there's even a little bit of truth to that, then developing a systematic innovation capability is definitely something that you need to consider. And Propella is ready to support you in that. And I'm very happy to work with Propella. and provide you with all the expertise that we can to make sure that your organization survives and thrives in this era of very great challenges and very rapid change that we're living through. So again, Grant, thank you so much for inviting me to share some thoughts with you. Look forward to working with you all as we go forward together and enjoy this amazing, fantastic, fascinating innovation journey. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.